that you doctors have made tonight strike a chord, and I have great sympathy and support with the positions that you've outlined. And I thank MPP Jim McDonnell for organizing this evening. And I guess as a councillor, the thing that strikes me most is one of the remarks that Dr. Seuss made about the inconvenience that people encounter when they're looking for procedures or tests. And I really fear that it's not just a question of inconvenience anymore, like you intimated that it was a question actually of accessibility. And this offends me so much as a Canadian, one of the majority of Canadians who have strongly committed themselves to the principles of the Canadian Healthcare Act, and accessibility is certainly one of those principles. And I feel we're losing it, so I'm always happy when any group gets together and enunciates and articulates a position in support for those principles, because gradually, little by little, we're losing so much. And I think Dr. Foley, you used the phrase gradual degradation of the system that we enjoy. I wish we could say we enjoy it all the time, but that we have access to. And I don't think this is a 2012 situation. I think it's been growing for 20 years. And I know I've heard many references to the Liberal government, and I'm not an apologist for the Liberal government, but I think every political stripe who's been in power at Queen's Park and in Ottawa has been guilty of sacrificing public services by gradually depleting the treasury that pays for all those services in favor of tax cuts, for example. And I think that's been counterproductive. So there are two other organizations that I'm part of that make me very much in support of what you've done here tonight. And the other, of course, is the Labour Council. Every labourer, doctor, janitor, judge, should have the right to negotiate and not just suffer the legislation of the recompense for their labour. So, as a member of the Labour Council, I hope you're reaching out to other groups, for example, the teachers who are facing the same sort of conflict that you are, coming head to head with the government in this. I hope you're reaching out to teacher groups as well, because I would say you certainly have common cause. So I see Dr. Seuss nodding her head, so perhaps Shamar will take that as affirmation, and I think that's a good thing. And I'm also a member of the Ontario Health Coalition, and this is a group that is strongly committed to public health care. And we had a forum in May, basically on the same issues. We saw that the cuts that were coming and what effect they were going to have. And rather than just stand up here and make a speech, I would like to ask a question. And maybe a quick answer from everybody on the table, I would appreciate. What do you see as the alternative to the progressive cutting of the services that we're facing? How should we fund the services, or what's the alternative to what we're facing? Thank you.
Thank you. Just one little point. These changes were not legislated; they were regulated. Legislated means that it was brought to Parliament and discussed. But this was just brought to Cabinet, and it was in dictatorial fashion, not in democratic fashion. We are a democratic people. I totally agree with you. I would prefer to see the OMA Association become the OMA Union. So we have the full protection of the Labour Act that every other Ontario citizen enjoys. The grass is greener. We're leaving because we can't pay the bank loans that we've got out to look after this. It's just, the system is crazy. So where do we get the money from? Well, use your pay. That's the way it works. Every other system in the world except North Korea has co-payments or private medicine to assist for those that can, in order that those who cannot fund it have a system to fall back on. The only other state in the world that has a huge hold on that, unfortunately, is only able to the south. And if Obama gets back in, there will be a need for 90,000 doctors to cover those sudden 45 million patients that need doctors. So guess where all our young Ontario doctors are looking at? It's a horrible reality, but that's where it might go. So I think if you're looking at a practical solution, we need to have maybe more taxation. The interesting thing is that we only, Ontario government spends 63 cents per day per inhabitant of Ontario. You know, a cup of coffee at large pennies from every one of us here in the room across Ontario. I accept a gradual increase in my taxes just so we're all covered. That might be a temporary solution until we work out the Canada Health Act, which has to come up for review in 2014. That would be my 6 points.
This is a very difficult question you ask, and obviously we won't solve that tonight.
And I don't mean it to be partisan, but I do recognize that it's political. Thank you.
There's different options, and you know all of them. Basically, people are ready to pay in some way for their medical services, either to a tax, okay, to a health tax. I want to have services, I'm ready to pay for that. There's other options, but I think most people are ready to give some money from their pocket if they know that it's going to be applied to cover their services in terms of their health. Any of you going to Florida this winter? I know some. And unfortunately, they take an insurance. Okay, they're ready to pay some money from their pocket to be sure that they have services if they're sick. So there's people are ready to do that. How? We can talk about it for hours, but people are ready to pay to get appropriate medical services.
As far as your question about how do we move forward, I think that's, as a doctor, I'm at the front lines, and I really just see what I need to do in front of me. So I don't know that I'm the person to answer that question. But I think that by not negotiating with the doctors, you've closed that door. So I think what needs to be done is that the current minority government needs to realize that the doctors need to be part of that conversation, that there are people out there who have a vision and can see what needs to be done to improve our healthcare system. And I know for myself, I see things in the front lines where I can offer ways that I think we can save money to save our healthcare system. But do you think I want to tell them now? Certainly not. I don't trust them because they may take that and cut some more from me. So, you know, I think that they bargained in bad faith, and that they need to somehow put up the white flag and say, we made a mistake. How awesome would that be for this government to be that honest and say, we made a mistake. Doctors, come back to the table with a conciliator.
I think I heard it loud and clear earlier. That we all, I think, and I would, as a physician myself, want a doctor who's making the decisions for my health care. And I think that's where we need to go back to, because the government right now is making the decision. They're political, they represent us, they have fiscal responsibilities, but they need to go back to the OMA. Those are the doctors, they represent me, and they are the ones who are looking at the big picture, trying to look at the budget. As a physician myself, I want to take care of the patient that's in front of me, and I want to take care of their needs the best. I don't want Toronto telling me what I can and cannot do for you. And I think that's what the OMA has been saying loud and clear. I guess the government didn't want to hear it, so they decided they just weren't going to listen to the OMA at all. I think that's completely wrong-headed. They need to speak to the doctors, the representatives of the doctors, to try and figure out how we can adjust this system to meet the fiscal responsibilities. That we don't want our economy to go into the trash either, and doctors don't want that either. But we also want to do this in a responsible way so that we can take care of patients, because that's where the focus needs to be. And right now, I think the focus is on the dollars.